What if the keys to transforming your school lies in 4 simple steps? Hi, I'm Tony Kimble. I'm the host of Transforming Lives. Tonight, we're sitting down with Dr. Kim Puckett, Germany, to uncover proven methods that will help you lead with confidence, improve teaching practices, and boost student outcomes. Dr. Germany's work has empowered countless educational leaders to make meaningful, lasting change in their schools. And now it's your turn to learn how. In this live stream, you're going to explore actionable insight from her upcoming book, Achieve Now, including how to create a strategic plan, foster emotional intelligence, build stronger relationships within your school and community. Now, here's what I need you to do. I need you to drop your biggest leadership challenge, okay, in the chat. Now, I can't promise you we're going to tackle it on there, but we'll have it there, and I'm going to bring some of them up, and maybe we can discuss those. Now, stay to the end because you want to make sure that you hear everything that's being discussed. You don't want to miss this. Now, whether you're watching this live as a replay, this is your moment to lead with an impact.
Transforming lives. Inspiring stories from educators worldwide. Impact happening worldwide. Your transformation starts here.
All right, guys, listen, we just got off a pre-call, and I tell you, man, it's dynamic connecting with individuals across the United States, right? So my next guest you heard is Dr. Kim, Germany. Look, she's representing the state of Tennessee. All right, I'm bringing her to the stage. Y'all, man, drop a comment, drop a like. My next guest, Dr. Kim, Germany.
Hello.
Welcome to Transforming Lives Podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Awesome. We're kind of in that same area, but usually I ask everyone, how is the weather where you're located?
Well, we're coming up off snow. So today we're in the high 40s. Earlier this week, it was snow. In fact, we were out of school for a day, but we are in good weather right now today. Matter of fact, when I pulled into my driveway, all the snow has finally melted.
Okay, well that's a good thing. I always tell people, in Mississippi, if it's like 5 or 6 snow flurries, we shut everything down. So that's good to hear. No, I'm so excited tonight for you to unveil the parts of your book. I was able to get a preview. Y'all don't worry about it. I was able to get a preview of it, and I'm telling you, this book is dynamic.
Oh, thank you.
I want to kind of show them the cover on it, and we're going to jump into the questions right here when we're looking at it. The summary was good for me, but I know we're going to dive in a little bit more. So I want to jump out with our first question. When we talk about new leadership, I don't care what you lead. Leadership is just like that sound you made. Leadership is different. But my question to you as a new leader, how can new leaders develop and apply emotional intelligence to manage their emotions effectively and lead with empathy? Okay, because when you're leading, emotions get in there. So can you help us out with that part? How do we control our emotions?
Well, the first thing is that you really have to know yourself. You have to know your triggers, you have to know your biases, and you have to know your own self-beliefs, but also your self-doubts. Because until you can manage and lead yourself, you're not going to be able to manage and lead people. Some of our private struggles get to be on public display in leadership positions.
Ooh,
so you have to learn to have that poker face. And it's hard to do that. And it was one of the challenges that I had to learn growing up, growing up as a leader, because I didn't have to say a word. It would be written all over my face. But to grow and have those emotional leadership skills, you first need to know who you are. Who are you?
Yes.
What's your vision? What's your mission? What are those things that you do well? And what are those areas that you know instructionally are your weaknesses? And that is how you're going to build your team. You need to be an active listener. And when I say listening, it's not listening to respond. It's listening to understand. It's listening to really hear those things that are not being spoken, but are being said. It is really paying attention to body language. It is paying attention to what people, how they're responding, those things that are triggering for you and them. And it is just really listening and leading from the heart and not being so quick to make a decision without really being thinking about the impact that it has. It is emotional leadership, is being transparent. You are not fake and phony. We can all see
Yeah.
that. But you are really being who you are. You're bringing your authentic self, your best self to the table, and you're being transparent about those things that are struggles for you, about those things that you do well, and how you can help other people become emotionally aware and how you can grow them. And it's just really being honest and it's really being transparent. But you are really having to take a strong, hard look at yourself every day, self-reflecting on what did I bring my best self to the table.
Oh, that's awesome right there. That and the unique thing about talking to leaders across the United States, it's you're hearing this message about working on yourself, right? Being your authentic self, right? Uh, uh, when I think about leadership, one of the things is just how do I deal with my emotions? And I love the fact that you pointed out this word that is so important. Triggers.
Yes, we all have them. We
Yeah.
all have the triggers because think about it. When you're in a leadership position, what we can even scale it all the way back to just teaching. You, number one, you're going to teach the way you were taught. Or
Correct.
you're going to teach the way that you experience teaching and learning because that's what you know, that's what you're going to naturally do. But you're also going to bring with you when you walk through the door those experiences that may have been positive, but also those ones that were negative. And those are the things that we have to keep in mind when we're dealing with students, when we're dealing with teachers, and when we're dealing with parents, because we can be just as triggering to other people, and other people can also trigger us and our emotions. So it is the hardest part. It is the hardest part of leading, is leading yourself so that you are self-resilient and you're not self-sabotaging yourself either. You're really being authentic and you're being transparent. And when you start to take those shields and curtains down and really just be who you are naturally, it's easier because you're not pretending to be something or someone that you're not.
Oh, I had to catch myself. I was about to tell you, talk that. I had to catch. Oh, that's powerful. Just this self-doubt that rises as leaders and having the environment to have a conversation like you and I are having right now about the emotional side. Before the strategies come, you have to be anchored down yourself, right? Because there are things that are going to come. I don't want to move away from this because this is good. But I'm gonna put a pin there. We're gonna have to wrap back around to that because the emotional part is it's not that we don't have the capacity. It's sometimes within that capacity, we have this emotional place that we have to protect or build up.
Because if we don't tackle that, think about it. If we don't tackle the emotional leadership piece, how are you going to present anything instructionally to me when you've already created an environment that you're making me resist what you're trying to give me? And what you're trying to give me could very well be the very thing that I need, but I'm not able to receive it from you because of how you handle me.
Oh, Dr. Jeremy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit back because we're gonna move to strategies, but that's an important point you just made, because if there's a wall of resistance, or if there, have to be a wall, it could just be an ounce of resistance that's there. You can't fully embrace change.
It's no trust. I don't
Right.
trust you.
Yeah. Oh, ooh. Okay. Okay, Dr. Jeremy, we're gonna move to this next one, but we need to double back on that one. But when we talk, we've looked at the emotional side. Next, as a new leader, we need strategies. What strategies can a new leader employ to drive instructional change? Right?
Mhm. The
Yeah.
first thing is identifying your strengths and your weaknesses as an instructional leader. You do not have to know all content areas to be able to go in and lead and monitor instruction. You don't have to know that. But you do need to have some working knowledge of the content areas, those items that are heavily assessed, those standards, unpacking those skills, and you need to be able to go into to deliver instruction. What's going to be innovative? How are we going to engage students in the learning environment? You know, the latest research says that you have 3 seconds. You have 3 seconds as a teacher to engage a kid in the learning environment. Do you know how quick 3 seconds? I mean, really, 3 seconds. You talk about super microwave.
Right.
And these kids that we are teaching now, not just the children, even their parents, think about it. You know, everything is fast, everything is quick. We want immediate results. They have been on iPads and they have phones since they have been 9 months old. They have been dealing with technology, you know, a long time, right?
Yeah.
So you have to really hook and engage them in that, because otherwise you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them. And and teachers that are struggling, you think about new teachers to the field, no formal training. How does that even look? So the first thing that I would do to coach a new principal is, what is tested? What is the accountability model? What is heavy? How does that need to look? Look at your data. Where do we need to grow? And who do you have teaching what? Before you even hit the classroom, there are so many other things that we need to do to prepare to enter the classroom before we go in saying, hey, we need to work on this strategy.
Right. I love how you just articulated that. When you talk about, we making sure you have the right people on the bus. But
Mhm.
even when they get on the bus, we
Mm.
have some other compartments that we need to work on to, eh, when you talk about what's heavily weighted on the test, making sure that they are able to process that way before you get into the classroom.
You have to, because otherwise you want the time that you spend in the classroom to be powerful, strategic, and impactful. You don't want to just go in, oh, I'm just going in to see, hey, how are you doing today? Don't come in and do that. When you go into a teacher's classroom, of course, you're not going to formally assess every time you're in there, but
Right.
you do need to leave some form of feedback. And it can be something very small, something based upon what they're struggling with. You really need to know if it's as a high school teacher, as a high school principal, but a district leader, if it's not tested, don't look for me to come. I'm going to come through just to speak how I build a relationship, but I'm really going to focus my instructional time on those things that are going to move the needle for me. As a new leader, you have to know how to balance your time. There are so many competing priorities, and
Oh,
how do you really determine where I need to be and what needs to happen? I remember my days of being a principal. I would tell my secretary, unless they are bleeding and on fire, do not come and get me out of my PLCs, because I led PLCs myself. You know, I led looking at the data. I led, is this is strategy impactful? I led what's next for us. So if it is not smoking and on fire, and I'm talking about, when I say a child hurt, I mean hurt. You are really hurt. We got to call 911 hurt for us to really interrupt the flow of what's important, because that shows where you spend your time. Is just like your checkbook. Look up your debit card. Where have you been swiping? That shows your priority. Same thing with being an instructional leader. Where do you spend your time? And it has to be where you're going to get the biggest bang for your instructional buck.
right. I love what you said about prioritizing your time. And I heard the passion in your voice when you said, hey, to your secretary, I'm leading this PLC. We're talking about data, and
Mhm.
I'm talking about data. So we want to make sure it has to be a high priority incident before I step in. And I think that's one of the things you point out in your book when you begin to talk about, and you're going to touch on that. I'm moving too fast. But you talk about data-driven instruction and how important that is. And where it happens at, it happens in that PLC.
That's right.
So, absolutely. So as a new leader, we've kind of talked about, we touched on strategies a little bit. What method can a new leader use to implement change? And here, Dr. Jeremy, the book is so in me right now. I did a reel on implementation, talking about we have so much information, but the implementation is what we need help with.
We are information rich, implementation poor.
Okay, hold on. Let me get that because that's going to be a clip. Go ahead. Can you say that one more time? Go.
We are information rich and we are implementation poor. We have all types of data. That's what everybody's going to talk about. But there's so many different types and kinds, and there are strategies for using them all. I just had a conversation today about data. You have lead data and you have lag data. Your lag data will be those scores that you get in the summer. Those scores that will tell you how you're going to be, what letter grade you're going to receive, how students performed on all of the standards, all of that. That is what you call lag data. Now, your lead data, that's going to be your formative assessments. That's going to be your pre-assessments that you give before you're teaching a new unit. That's going to be the assessment that you give the first week of school to determine readiness for that current grade level standards. That's going to be your lead data. And that's where you're going to see prior knowledge, what students already know. You're going to see where you need to spend most of your time. That's also going to help you with your student groupings. So you need to have various types of data, but you also need to know when to use what and what the impact and the intent is going to be. When we talk about building your annual plan, you have to include both types of data, but you have to monitor the data because your plan is going to change based upon the latest set of data. So when you start in the summer looking at how your students perform the previous school year, to create your academic plan, you also have to put a current measure in place to determine where they are right now. Because what you're looking at in the summer is the previous school year. That's the previous grade level. They're in a whole nother grade now. They're the new subject now. So those skills are different. Their knowledge is different, and it determines where you need to spend your time, what they already know. So you're not wasting instructional time, and you are being strategic and strategizing the time that you have so you can ensure success. The results that we get at the end of the year, if you are surprised, you need to call me because you have a problem. You should know because you're playing the game the entire time. And the good thing about it, I just get so excited. I love it. The good thing about it is that it's just like getting your game plan. I'm a football fan. I live in Tennessee. I was in Mississippi. My husband coached all down there. I am Roll Tide all the way. I love football. So it is so simple. It's just a natural correlation. Right. You get your game plan. You know who the opponent is. Your opponent changes every week. So you look at the game film, you study them, you know that you're going to run this play. You know who you need to block so that your quarterback can get that touchdown. Same thing with instructional leadership. You know who the opponent is. The opponent is this test. We know what our game plan is going to be. You have 4 quarters. I do this all the time. Hey, it's the 9 weeks, 4th quarter. Let's go. Let's win this game. So you just really have to be strategic. The time that we have from starting school to ending is not going to change unless you have a snow day, unless you have a hurricane, unless you have a big weather event, unless we get another COVID. So you have to maximize the instructional time that you have, because when results come out and they are dropped, there's no asterisk by your name. There's no asterisk. Kim Germany was a new leader, so her school was an F. We're going to give her C. We're just going to give her the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't matter. These children, they entered third grade with all of these instructional deficits because these were COVID kids. Doesn't matter. You're still going to get a third grade test. So for me, it's about any means necessary as long as it is legal and moral and ethical, doing what we need to do to meet the needs of kids. No excuses.
All right. So I'm going to have to give you the award, the first to make the correlation with sports, and particularly the football analogy. I like how you did that. I love the connection and the fact that you were very accurate in your depiction of the football. So I need to give you get the air horn. Great job. I can tell your passion as you talk about this data piece, because I love that what you said. You should not be shocked in the fourth quarter. You shouldn't be, because I saw this, and I can't remember where I saw it at, where they use the term, how they describe formative assessments. It's like someone cooking, where you are tasting it. You're tasting the food before it goes out to the customer.
That's right.
So you have to taste it. You have to, get a sample of it before it goes out. It can't be a shock. If it's a shock,
it can't be, because you've been planning and preparing and assessing along the way. So the adjustments that you need to make. When you give your first benchmark assessment and you get your results back, and you are unpacking those the standards analysis report, you already know who the heavy hitter standards are. You already know that. The skills that undergird those standards. So that's when you're bringing in your SPED teachers, your interventionists, and you are drill and killing the skills that undergird those standards that are high priority. It is a no excuse approach. It is high performing, high poverty, high performing, high income. It just doesn't even matter. These are just skills and strategies that I have just done it all of my instructional career, that have just really been very simple things to do, making sure that kids understand their own expectations and making them have goals. This is where you are right now, and this is where I need you to be by the beginning of May. This is why I need you to do that. And after every benchmark assessment, they are increasing their own goals. As a principal, when I was in Louisiana, my accountability score, 50% of my score at this particular school was in the 8th grade. And I write about this story in my book. And I talk about how I spent a lot of my time, you already know, on that 8th grade hallway. Once I open up the school, we have done our morning announcements. Guess where I'm going? 8th grade. All my
you say tell your second. If you look, I'm going to be on the 8th grade hall.
I'm on the 8th grade hall. I am on the 8th grade hall. I am in every class, and I am meeting with them with their red data folder. This is where we are, Tony. You have improved, but you know what? If we get 5 more accurate, baby, you got it. I spent a lot of time with 8th grade, to the point that some of my high school students were like, hey, we don't see you as much. We don't see you as much. But that's just an example of prioritizing, having those competing priorities. You've got to really focus on where you want to be, because we all know it's about children. It's about children for me. Yes. However, it's also about legacy and entering as a new leader with the 6 words that you want people to describe you by. We know that, and nobody really, when I began my career in leadership a very long time ago, let me just say that, nobody ever said, hey, Kim, you're getting ready to move into leadership. I want you to think about how you want to be remembered. Nobody ever said that. You're moving in as a new leader. And sometimes you can make mistakes and you get a second chance, but sometimes you make that one mistake and your career in leadership is done. But I think if you start your instructional leadership career your step
Mhm.
into leadership, thinking about how you want to be remembered, the impact that you want to have. You need to think about that at the gate. How do
Right.
you want to be remembered? And let that kind of undergird your actions and where you need to be for your next steps. One of the things that I always talk to my team members about, where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 5, 7, and 10? Because where you want to be is my charge to help you get there. I don't want anybody to be on a team that this is all I ever want to do. You know why? Because you're going to be complacent. You're going
Oh,
to be comfortable. You're not going to want to make the change because you want to ride it out. I don't want ride it out people. I want people that in 3 years, I want to be here because
yes.
you're going to be eager to listen. You're going to want to take on new challenges and responsibilities. You're going to take it upon yourself to grow and learn. And I'm not going to have to force you and push you to do things to grow so that we can impact student achievement from the district level. So you want to think about your legacy. Where do you want to be? But you know what else though, Tony? With that emotional leadership, how do you know when it's time to leave? How do you know that? How do you know when it's time to leave? And how do you leave on your own terms?
And that's a part, even ooh, we probably need to go back to the beginning of that thought that you just had about legacy, because that's not a term that's I don't remember having a conversation going into leadership. Usually it's, well, I want to go up another tier to get more money, but it's more to that. Even when you get the money, comes responsibilities.
It's a trade-off.
Right.
It is really, you will never get paid enough money as an educator
No.
because the worry and the stress that you have, not even thinking about academics, but just caring for your children, your students, your team,
Right.
it is a very heavy lifting weight because when you work on my team, you're always on my team. It doesn't matter. We work together a year, two, whatever. You can always call me, which is how this book even came about. Because I would get people calling me and say, "Hey, help me think this through. Help me
Mm,
think this through. What are your thoughts about this? What do you think? What about this? Send me this." Because I had all this stuff on these Google Drives for so many years in district level leadership. And I said, and someone kind of just said haphazardly, "You should write a book." And when we were really thinking about, my husband told me several years ago that you should write a book. I'm like, I don't want to write a book. I just finished a dissertation. I'm
mm.
done. I don't even hardly want to read another book. Let me read an article. So
Right.
that's how it really came about. But it is a heavy lift and it's a heavy weight. And it's really not about the money. It's never enough money to really, if it's not good enough for my own child, it's not good enough for yours. When I walk into a building, if it doesn't look the way I want my daughter to be,
Yes.
it's not good enough for your child.
Yes.
If it's a teacher, you're not in there teaching the way that I would want my child to be taught and trained, then it's not good for the ones that are in there. So that's the way that I just approach it. It's just so personal to me, which is why I'm so passionate about it.
Right. I definitely can hear it in this conversation. And I can see the difference in having, when I first started, I didn't have kids. And you get in there and you don't have as much empathy. But
Mm.
once you have that child, they're in that, in school, you have a different perspective. And I love that you highlighted that if it's not good enough for my child,
Mhm.
then that's what I tell teachers that I work with. I tell them, you want to set up, and I think that's a point that you make out of your book of building this culture of not just excellence, but it's a culture culture of high achievement. That's how
Mhm.
you have it stated. A culture cultivating a mindset of accountability and success for all students and staff. And that's something that doesn't necessarily happen in 2 or 3 months. That's something that you develop over time.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm telling you, like, y'all people got to get this book. I'm gonna put it back up here. Y'all got to get this book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have the link in the description, but I need to put this back up here because um, when you think about one of the things she shares is a comprehensive student support, creating systems. When you look at systems help you guide through. And I'm thinking about that right now as a podcaster. I got to develop systems. It's like, I forgot who I am. I almost say who I is. I got to do right. This is a public forum.
Yeah, because the systems are going to help you be more efficient. Everybody's going to know what we do. This is the way that we do it in this building. And we all know that. It doesn't matter if you're new, you're veteran, if it doesn't even matter. This is our way of doing things, and this is why. And you have to have your systems and your procedures and your processes in place. That's a part of building your legacy. But more importantly, that's the part that's going to help you maintain your focus and your priorities. It's going to streamline what you're trying to do.
I was going to let you finish your thought, but that's the important part of it. If you don't establish that, and it's amazing when you see children, once you set the environment, children will adjust. Scholars will adjust to it. Once you set the environment or the culture, that you may have some like I was in school, but you eventually get to a point where when you go into Dr. Jeremy's room, you better get yourself together, because this is what she expects from you. And when the student can articulate it,
high expectations, I don't want to hear it. High expectations with behavior, high expectations with performance, high expectations with everything that I ask you to do. It is just non-negotiable for me. This is how it is, and this is how we roll. But a part of having that attitude also has to be the way that you deliver that and the way that comes across. Because you want to have stakeholders. You want to have those allies. You want people on your side that will be able to go out and articulate the reason for the change, why we're doing the change. And I'm talking about they know steps 1, 2, and 3, the impact that it's going to have, and the data that you use to drive that decision. You don't want to just haphazardly go and change something. You just do not. You have to understand those traditions. You have to understand those sacred cows. If you're trying to change something that has always been, you have to be ready to die on the ditch for that. Are you ready to die on the ditch for that? I'm not dying on the ditch for something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not. It's not that big of a deal. Fine, okay. However, when it comes to academic performance, student achievement, I'm all about that. We're going to teach with excellence. You're going to turn in lesson plans for me. I'm sorry, I don't want to hear that. On the lesson plan, I want to see how you're meeting the needs of the SPED students. I want to see how you're integrating those accommodations. But the lesson planning piece is easy, Tony, when you have professional learning communities, when you're in your PLCs. We are doing it together. We're creating the assessment together. And when you address those misconceptions, especially when you think about new teachers being at the table, and you're addressing those misconceptions, and this is how we already know the students are going to struggle with this. So this is how we're going to meet that need. We're going to already have our kids in groups in advance. Think about how easy that is. So when you're talking about, I remember when I'm not going to call the state because they're going to know what school district I'm talking about. But anyway, I remember when I was leading instruction for a district and we had a school, they were just adamant about teachers you need to turn in the lesson plan, and you need to make sure you do this, and you have to come and present your lesson plan to me. And I would go to their leadership team meetings, and it just was not working. And so one day I said, how about if instead of them teaching you the lesson, what about you teaching the lesson to them? Why don't you deliver the entire lesson from bell to bell? Let you go teach it. Let them see you in action, and then let them practice. What would be the difference? Completely different environment, because you're asking them to do something they're not ready to do. But if you train them to do it, show them how to do it, give them a model, then you can give that to them. You can release some of that control. But at first, you got to show them. I just don't believe in holding people accountable for something I have not explicitly trained you to do.
And again, pointing back to your book, you talk about teacher effectiveness. And that's the important part of it, of if you modeling that behavior and walking them through that process, because sometimes we forget, but we have to remember
Mhm.
that. Um,
You got
go ahead. I want to go.
you gotta remember the classroom. You got to remember the classroom. You
Yeah.
cannot be a leader that all that you want to do is to be outside politicking. You will have no validity as a leader. You have to be in the classroom. You have to be. And you got to be able to talk some content talk. And that gets to be a part of coaching. That's why you have to have a mentor. And that's why your districts have to provide ongoing professional learning for new leaders, explicitly for new leaders, focusing on instructional leadership. You
Yeah.
have to be. And you just have to give that. I have worked with some of my principals. These are the talking points. Okay, let's practice this conversation. This is what I really want you to hit. And then some of my principals in some places that I work, they'll say, okay, Dr. Germany said this is what we have to do. They just throw me under all kind of buses, but that's okay because I can come and explain this is why we're doing this. And this is the impact that we're gonna make on academic achievement.
Oh, that's good. That's a whole talking point of, even, if you're giving a suggestion or you're providing feedback, with
Mhm,
the feedback,
mhm.
let's model what that looks like, or let's put them in the best position to win. Because then you get that buy-in that you truly care about us moving forward. It's not just it's not a one person show. It's a team.
It
And
has to be, yes. If unless you're gonna keep replacing teachers, and I want to know where you're gonna get them from. Because I don't want a warm body in front of my kids. I
true.
want a dynamic, if I want a dynamic, effective teacher before children. And the best way to get one is to make them one. Because we don't have people knocking down these doors to come and be educated. So we have to take who we have and make them be how we want them to be.
So you got this Alabama in you. I hear it all. This Nick Saban, you gotta make them.
Yeah, yeah. I do.
Um, man, I wish. I would love to just type me some more questions up. You have been dynamic of explaining the effectiveness that impacts a school district, and then also helping new leaders, because at some point there's going to be a change of the guards where
Yes,
there's going to be a new person going in, and I definitely hear your passion
yes.
about this topic. I'm going to step to the side. I'm gonna do my horn, since football. It's 2-minute warning. You go
Okay.
ahead, and I'll step to the side when you're done. I'll take it over. So you have the floor.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be a part of this podcast today. I am so outside of my comfort zone. I can talk all day in front of people about work-related things, but to be here tonight to talk about my passion, teaching and learning, I'm so happy to be here. I am in the final stages of publishing my first book, Achieve Now: 4 Strategies to Grow Your Instructional Leadership Skills and Impact Student Outcomes as a new leader. And my framework is 4 parts: emotional leadership, instructional leadership, change leadership, and sustainability. And those 4 strategies I have practiced across my career, and everywhere that I have been able to grow positive academic achievement. I have been able to increase teacher capacity, and I have also been able to impact positively leader development. It is just my passion. I believe that everything begins and ends with good leadership. And in order for us to have the resiliency to create the academic environment, to really change lives, which is what I think education is, that starts with instructional leadership. Nope, that doesn't start with running a building. Nope, that doesn't start with handling the parents. It starts with instructional leadership inside that classroom, moving the needle for kids. And it doesn't have to be hard, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming, although it can be scary. It's hard. It is scary. It is a big deal because you are impacting the lives of children. It will be my honor to have you pre-order my book. You can go to my website, www.drkimgermany.com, and pre-order your copy. I am planning to start having some webinars to talk about some of the chapters in the book. It is a 9-chapter book, and I have the book summaries at the end. I'm working on my workbook to accompany the book. I'm planning to have a strategic planner to help new leaders plan their year by the quarter. I have a lot of good things coming down the pipe for new leaders, and I would be honored to have you buy my first book.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a joy to have you on tonight, but also giving that sneak peek too, because I can hear the passion within the book.
Yeah.
Now, there was a comment I'm going to put this comment up here.
Okay, let's see. Yes, absolutely.
Dr. Wayne,
Always.
he's going to be my guest on Saturday. So I guess I got to hear this Roll Tide again on Saturday.
I will tell you this, Tony. The playoffs have not been the same without my Alabama Crimson Tide. Let me just say that. But with change. That's part of the book. You got to read chapter 8, change the leadership. With change, you also have to grant grace. And that is where we are right now in Alabama football. We're in a period of grace, but we're going to be back next season.
Oh, I see. You did that well. I got to find my applause. Good job right there. I'm gonna send you to the backstage. So give me 2 or 3 minutes after I close it out. Quick conversation. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
All right. Listen, guys, this, as always, has been a dynamic conversation, and to have leaders on to speak from their heart. They're leading schools, or they've led schools in their particular state, but to have people on that are passionate about it. I wish I could tell you that this was Tony's idea. It's not. It's just when I look at this, it's so much bigger than me. Having educators on that are talking about their passion and talking about change. That's what this is all about. Make sure pre-order. I will have the information in the description so that you have the ability to pre-order this book, guys. The summary has been great, but I know the content is very strong, and you can hear it in her voice as well. I've had those dynamic leaders on. So thank y'all so much for joining us. It is time to go. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you so much. This has been Transforming Lives. 50 educators from 50 states. Tennessee has been represented.